we actually are going to listen to this. I found a YouTube chant of this mantra that goes through it 11 times. But this is an ancient mantra of prayer, and a loose translation of it goes something along these lines. Dear God, you are the giver and sustainer of all life, the remover of all sorrows, the bestower of bliss. God who always inspires us, the creator of the universe, you alone are worthy of worship. You are the supreme presence that enlightens and removes our evil desires. You are the divine supreme giver. We meditate on thee. You who have all these qualities, please inspire us, move forward our intellect so that we may be able to tell right from wrong. Fred, would you do me the honors?
Okay, I'll go over it twice. And when you end the word in Sanskrit with a T at the end of a sentence, there's always a real verbal to it. So, Om Bhurvava Swaha Tatsavatur Varenyam Argo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tatsavatur Varenyam Argo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Na Prachodayat.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, thank you. Yes, sure.
I don't come to your church and applaud you for praying.
Oh, we're a clapping church. We're getting there. So I'm going to. I found this online, and so this is. I invite you to kind of find your place, a center, kind of release your body, the stresses in it. Remove your shoulders from your ears, loosen your jaw, the muscles in your hands, your feet, and your knees, and really allow this mantra to kind of take you.
Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvava Swaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi
one of the ancient mantras that is found in the big Veda, the Rig Veda, sorry, and much like our own traditions have, ancient roots, and there may be more modern and contemporary ways to do some of the ancient prayers and chants, and online. If there's anything that's good about the internet, it's how we're able to find these resources. The global village really is small. Unfortunately, the global village also is often toxic. And there's a lot of folks who are spewing hate on the internet, but you actually can find a lot of great stuff. And so I was so pleased to be able to find some of the chants that we've been able to hear the last couple of weeks. So, pop quiz, everybody. Let's review from last week the 7 core beliefs of Hinduism. What is Brahman? A rhetorical. The source and energy of all reality, right? That's a good way of understanding it, Judy. Good job. What is Atman?
Your real self.
Your real self. All right. Another maybe that's. I agree. Yes. Is there another way to?
Every human has a soul.
Soul, right? It would be a soul, right? Good job, Bob. It's the real self. It's the immortal self. It's the soul, and the goal of the soul is to go back to Brahman, right? So. What is karma?
Good and bad.
Good and bad, yeah. And
Yin
so
and yang.
Yin and yang. All right. What goes around comes around. That's not exactly true. That is a good sort of way of. I think that is the popular notion of it. Was that Tim?
Westernization of.
Yeah, I was going to say the pop culture version of karma is what goes around comes around. And so karma is it's our actions. It's the actions that affect society. It's also the actions that affect ourselves, our lives. It's the actions that affect our lives in the present, and the actions that will affect our lives in the future. And then part of karma is part of a system called samsara, and the goal of samsara is the transmigration of the immortal soul, or the Atman, after we die, and the transmigration of the Atman. But the goal is moksha. What is moksha? Moksha.
Idea of kind of reincarnation and circling through lives to learn lessons that eventually will elevate you enough that you then reach the peak of Brahman.
The release, right? It's the release from the cycle of life and death, so that you return to moksha, or you return to Brahman. That's exactly right. What are the Vedas? Say that again, Chrissy.
The spiritual.
Yeah, so it's the 4. There are lots and lots of readings, or sacred texts, but it's the foundational texts, right? And what's the language that they were written in? Sanskrit, right?
Sanskrit.
Yeah, we talked about how Sanskrit was a game changer in terms of that. What are the yugas? Yeah, say that again, Bob, out loud. Yeah, so it's the cycle of time, right? It's cyclical time. There are 4 yugas, and we are in the 4th yuga according to the swamis and the gurus, and that is called. Anyone want to guess what the 4th yuga is? The Kali Yuga. That's right. That's exactly right. And then last but certainly not least, what is Dharma?
Your purpose.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Gina. It's your purpose, and your purpose is to be the best you that you can possibly be. It's the old army, be all that you can be, right? The army, right? Was that the army or was that the Marines? That was the army, yeah, right? Well, the few, the proud, that's the Marines. So that's an excellent. Good review, everybody. Excellent job. Any questions about these before we move on? Okay. So the other thing I always want you to be aware of when it comes to the Hindu tradition is that It is a non-profit organization.
I meant for.
So one reason why we struggle with the date of the start of Hinduism is there isn't like the birth of the great prophet to start Hinduism. There isn't a Jesus, a Muhammad, a Buddha, that you could say like this starts the tradition off on a direction. And so what we have is somewhere between 1500 and 2000 BCE, the invention of Sanskrit, the coalescing of beliefs and stories and epics and myths and wisdom teachings, all coalescing in this valley that gets written down and starts to be passed along in the sacred texts, which are of course the Vedas. And so unlike other traditions that we will begin with starting next week or 2 weeks from now, when we gather to start talking about Judaism, and we can really say that Judaism is grounded in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob with Moses. There are lots and lots of prophets in the Judaic tradition. In Hinduism, there is no centralized prophets, though there are names that you're going to learn tonight that are valuable and important. So around 2,000, 3,500, 4,000 years ago, these texts are starting to be coalescing and starting to be written down in Sanskrit. And the pinnacle or the top of the sacred texts of Hinduism are the 4 Vedas. There's the Rig Veda, the Sama Veda, the Yajur Veda, and I always get this one. This one's always often hard on the that's what?
Atrha. You don't say it's Atrha.
Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda. And so the oldest of these 4 is the Rig Veda. It is hymns, it is myths, it is mantras, it is prayers, it is rituals. The one that would be the closest to the book in our Bible, the Psalms, would be the Sama Veda. It is actually set to music, much like when you read the Psalms, it says, "Sing this psalm to this tune." Now we don't understand, we don't know what the name of that tune is, we don't know what that tune sounds like. In the Psalms, we've lost the actual music for the Psalms. So now we just chant them in this kind of monotone, right? If you've been to a Catholic church and you've had the cantor chant the Psalms, it's kind of monochromatic when it comes to the syllables of the Psalms. The Sama Veda are hymns and such. And it's all set to music. The Yajur Veda is almost a text that's written for religious leaders more than for kind of lay people. To compare it to what's in the Bible, it would be what's in Leviticus or Numbers, the second half of Exodus. It's all those commandments and all those rules and why something has to be so far away from something else and those type of things. It's a guide for the priests, for the yogis, for the swamis, the monks to be able to do the rites and the rituals of the faith. And then I mentioned last week say it one more time for me. Atharva Veda. It is it's so much fun to read. It's my favorite. And there are incantations, and there's prayers, and there's hymns, and there's like rituals for healing and for someone's get married, or they're looking to protect themselves from curses from someone else, or for that matter, to curse someone else. It's so much fun to read. I cannot recommend it high enough. Yes, right.
My favorite is a hymn in Atharva Veda about the joy that men of a certain age will appreciate this. The joy of a streamful urination.
Yes. Yes. No, that's great. That's great. Then you'll get to sleep through the night. Yeah, that's good. And so these form the foundation, if you will, of the faith, and then and the religion, and then, as is always the case, so if you think that these are written down 1,500 years ago, about living with these texts for about 700 years, people start to ask questions about these texts. What do they really mean? How do we really apply them to our lives? And so you have the second set of sacred texts, which is the Upanishads. And these were, again, about 700 to 1,000 years after the Vedas were written down, after people had started utilizing the prayers, the rituals, the songs, the priests and the monks started using the rituals and the prayers in public life. People started asking questions. Okay, so how does this actually apply to me? How is this relevant to me anymore? That's a natural evolution of a faith. In many ways, the New Testament is that for the Hebrew Bible. In many ways, if you're aware of Judaism, we'll talk about this, is you have the Torah, and the prophets are actually, the prophets in the Hebrew Bible are actually interpreting what the Torah is. In many ways, the prophets in the Hebrew Bible are our Upanishads. They're interpreting how to actually live out the Torah in their context. And it's very similar to, if you took a philosophy course in, philosophy 101 in college, it's very similar to Plato or to Aristotle or to the great philosophers of Western civilization. These are tremendous thinkers who are asking the deep questions of life. They're raising questions about ethics. They're raising questions about who am I in the grand scope of things? And they're asking questions about what does it mean to die? What does it mean to live? What does it mean? If I am an Atman, if that's my real true self, then how do I actually reveal that part of me? And how can I make me? And so they're asking very deep theological, existential questions based on the teachings and the Vedas. And this is the second part of the sort of the sacred text of Hinduism. Then you have the Puranas, and not dangerous toothed fish, but an encyclopedia. And there are there is a vast amount of Puranas out there. It is almost like an encyclopedia of Hindu beliefs and customs. They really sort of get down to the nitty-gritty of things, and they really give sort of structure to the tradition. But one of the things that really, I think, separates Hinduism from the other traditions in the world are the absolutely phenomenal epic myths in Hinduism. How many of you have ever had a chance to go to Southeast Asia and actually visit a Hindu temple? Yeah, so Fred and I might be the only two, at least in the room. Anyone online actually had a chance to go to the Southeast Asia and visit a temple? If not, the frescoes and the sculptures and the paintings, the tapestries around these temples tell absolutely phenomenal myths. And so I want to share with you a couple of them. So probably one of the most famous is the Ramayana, and it is one of my favorite parts of this is it's like Robin Hood in the Western world, and like about every 3 years, Hollywood just makes another movie about Robin Hood because they can't think of another movie to make. Same thing in Bollywood. This myth has been made into a movie more times than any other story in India. It's when Bollywood runs out of ideas, they turn over and make another version of this myth. Like I said, it's much like Robin Hood in that way. So the story is not just found in Hinduism, though. This same myth and epic can be found in Buddhism, in Jainism. There's actually even a Muslim version of this story. It is the story, the basic version of the story is Prince Rama, his brother, and his wife Sita, are on this 14-year sort of banishment, and they're in exile, and they're walking through the woods. This is a very simplified version of it. It goes on much longer than this. They're walking through the woods, and a 10-headed demon called Ravana comes and kidnaps Sita. And Rama and his brother, with the Monkey King Hanuman, go on an epic adventure to save Sita. And they defeat Ravana, and they free Sita, and everyone lives happily ever after. That's a very simplified version. But there are other versions of the story. There are other versions of the story where Rama isn't the hero. It's actually his brother who ends up rescuing Sita. There's another version of the story where Sita basically says, I can take care of myself. Thank you very much. I don't need a man to rescue me. There's also, yes, all you, yes. There is a version of the story where it's very meta, where Rama and Sita they're on the edge of the woods where she normally gets kidnapped. And Rama tells Sita, hey, you shouldn't go into the woods because I've read versions of this story and you always get kidnapped. And Sita's like, there is no version of the story that I don't get kidnapped. I'm going into the woods or the story doesn't happen. Like it's very meta. And so it's like I said, it is amazing. It's so much fun. I wish our Bible had some of these stories. They're so much fun. And we'll get to reason why this story is important here in a little bit. Another one that's incredibly famous, if some people have maybe read a Hindu text, it is the Gita that they've maybe read. I mentioned this last week. It's a 1st century epic myth. It's actually much shorter than some of the other ones. And at the heart of the story is, what is your Dharma and what is your purpose in life? And I mentioned last week that Prince Arjuna, he was to be the next heir to this family's fortune and land and ruling area in India. But there was a portion of his family that sort of superseded his right to be the next prince, and he was very conflicted about sort of fighting his family. And so Krishna, who is actually the avatar of Vishnu, comes and ends up being the chariot driver for Prince Arjuna, and they have a philosophical conversation about how you are to live out your dharma and live out your very best life, even when it's not easy. And ultimately, the lesson of the Gita is all of us face difficult choices in life. And but we must act according to our dharma, no matter how unpleasant it is for us to live out our purpose. Does that relate to anyone? Can you relate to that kind of story? Even if the names may be somewhat unfamiliar to you and the location is somewhat familiar to you, this idea that you have a purpose and role in this world, and sometimes it's not easy or pleasant to actually have to do that. That's really what that is. Yeah, Bob.
Is this related to a story that I was listening to a speaker and he had talked about tough decisions, and he talked about a warrior, great warrior in his chariot. And he was talking to his god, and the thing was, is he said, the warrior was like, I don't want to kill anybody anymore, God. And the god was like, well, if you don't fight for your people, they will be annihilated by this oncoming army.
Yes.
And then the god leaves, and then the story ends. Is this, I mean, is
Gosh,
that,
it's been a while since I read the game. I don't know if that's how the story ends, but
well. the
Yeah,
way this-
Frank would know how the story ends.
So is this along those lines?
that's his, yes, you're right, that's the
So the
story.
fighter had to decide his purpose, was he the defender?
He's the defender. Yeah, he's the defender of his people.
Yeah.
Right, and but he doesn't wanna fight and kill his family.
Yeah.
That's who he's fighting.
Okay,
Right, it's not some horde, like some foreign horde coming in, it's his family.
okay.
That's what makes it such a tough choice. It's not defending your people against outside invaders. It's a civil war that's happening, and he doesn't want to kill his family. You want to add anything else, Fred?
No, I mean, you got it. The only other thing I would say that unless you were gonna talk about the fact that it's a part of the Mahabharata.
I wasn't, no, I was gonna move on, yeah, no.
Okay, very, very quickly, the Bhagavad Gita is like a chapter, it's 700 verses. And it is a part of a much larger scripture called the Mahabharata, which is over 100,000 verses.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. When I say it's an epic, it's an epic. I mean, it's longer than the Odyssey and the Iliad combined. So it's amazing, the poetry, the verses that have been written. So all of these myths and epics and teachings and philosophies, they do have a purpose. They do have a role to play in the life of the Hindu. There are some Hindus who have very little use for a spirituality that recognizes the pantheon of the gods, which we'll get to, and they're very much kind of like the equivalent would be Christians who say, like, I like Jesus because he's a great spiritual teacher, but I don't know how I feel about this whole like Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost sort of thing, but I can get behind love your neighbor, kind of thing. That there are Hindus that live their life that way, and then there are others who are very much spiritual beings and spiritual people who have a very devout, pious life. But ultimately, this is sort of the goal of Hinduism, is to live a good, balanced life in the here and the now. And this is the way in which a Hindu would do so, based on the teachings of the epics, the myths, the Upanishads, the Vedas. So one, we've already talked about. It's your Dharma. That's your purpose in life, and your purpose in life is to live your very best you as you possibly can. And yes, part of Dharma in some of the myths, particularly in the Rig Veda, and I think in the I didn't write it down because I wasn't going to go over it, but is the way that in terms of the caste system, the ancient version of it was that it was based on your abilities and your ambitions in life and your time and your talents and your gifts, and you can move up and down, you can move through the caste system. They weren't rigid systems, particularly after the British. Again, I don't want to throw everything I don't want to throw the British under the bus all the time, but British colonialism really did a number on a lot of places, and it was really under British colonial rule that those castes really became hard and fast, right? But the idea was that you could actually move through the caste system. And then there were certain people that were doing certain jobs that had to do with meat production, sewer work, and those type of things. And that's where we got the Dalits, right? Which is the untouchables, which were people without caste. But most people were born into a place within the caste, and according to your age and your caste, that had a lot to do with your Dharma in the ancient sort of the sense. In modern Hinduism, the caste is sort of melted away some, and it really is about you being the best you. So I always want to come back to that. Part of one with your Dharma is the pursuit of your Artha, which is the pursuit of living a good life and seeking prosperity. That's not necessarily wealth, but living a happy life, living a joyous life, and living an ethical life so that people recognize that you are a moral and ethical person. This next one is Kama, And anyone want to guess what is a wonderful Hindu, Indian text, that teaches us how to, have, maybe some good karma in our life? The Kama Sutra, right. It's in the name of the text, right? The Kama Sutra, which is a book about sexual pleasure. And it is, so you want to seek Kama in your life, pleasure of body and pleasure of your mind. So it's not just physical pleasure, but it's also intellectual curiosity as well. And when you, pair your Dharma with your seeking of Artha, with your, pursuit of Kama, then you can participate in that release of, and breaking the cycle of the life and death and rebirth cycle of moksha. All right, so some people are like, well, how do they do that? How do they break moksha, break the cycle? So you live your Dharma, you seek Artha, you seek Kama, and those three things combined is what allows us to release ourselves so that we can connect with Brahman, with the ultimate source of being, right? All right, there's an opposite to this. So if there are four goals, there are 6 temptations. Tell me where you've read these before. Tell me these don't look familiar. So it's very confusing. Number 1 is Kama. It's actually the same term, but it means something different. And so if Kama is the seeking of pleasure of body and mind, then Kama can have an opposite effect, which is lust and materialism. Krodha is anger or rage. Lobha is greed. Moha is unrealistic attachments, particularly to people. Think of stalkers. Is an unrealistic attachment to people. Codependency, those type of things. Mada is entitlement or pride. There's a good kind of pride, like it's good to be proud of the work that you do, but there's another side of pride that leads to entitlement. And then Matsarya, which is jealousy or envy, covetousness. That would be the same as like, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's donkey, right? And the 10 Commandments. So you seek out the 4 goals in life, and you do your very best to avoid the 6 temptations in life. And by doing this push and pull of seeking the 4 goals and avoiding the 6 temptations, then you find that balance of what a good life is, and you participate in that release of your Atman so that it can eventually return to Brahman. All right, so
would that be considered transcending?
transcending, that's a great question. That's almost, what's that?
Or ascend, if you get your spirit.
Well, I think, okay, so that's a great question, Tim. So that presupposes that up is better, right? And that there's a sort of like a Maslow's hierarchy sort of happening, right? As you're going sort of up. The point is not necessarily to like, it's not a laddered system. Like it's about learning to free oneself and to free one's Atman from these other things, right? And so you could go from, you can reach, for lack of a better term, enlightenment or release without having to go through this tiered system, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we might not want to like think about sort of like up is good, down is like bad. It's all about learning and about evolution, and so evolution isn't necessarily an up and down sort of thing. It's about growth, and it's about spiritual evolvement. That's probably the best word I can think of. Yeah. Other questions? Great question. Anybody online? Does this sound that, I'm gonna use a word that I actually don't like using, but I can't think of a better word, so don't. Does this sound foreign to you? Or does this feel like this is something, this is connected to something that you've grown up in your own tradition?
Just a lot to understand.
Was that?
It's a lot to understand.
It's a lot, is it because of the words are a lot to understand, or the concept's hard to understand?
Well, I think of, growing up Christian,
Yeah,
so, that's very confusing to someone brand new walking into Christianity. In fact, it almost was very violent, we're talking about blood and all this stuff.
yeah,
But to those of us who were raised in Christianity, it's normal. That's kind of the way I was talking to my friend at lunch. I'm like, he was explaining all these gods. I'm like, how do you remember them all? But he's been in Hinduism his whole life.
sure,
So,
sure. That's a great point, Sam. Like, we only know what we know, right? And when we get exposed to another way of looking at things, then it can be
overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, disconcerting, but the principles are
They're very similar. It was
Similar.
we were charting out, different tracks, like they're very, very close to each other.
Sure.
Most religions are.
sure. Yeah, right. So the Venn diagram of overlapping, right? The myths might be on the outside of that Venn diagram, but living a good life, trying to remove as much anger and rage from your life, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. Brother, did you have a
No,
comment? Okay, sorry. Did I see another hand? Yeah, Fred.
I'm familiar with these prohibitions, for lack of a better word. I've never seen them in a systematic list like this. Can I ask where you found this?
Yeah, so I'm using a textbook that was I had from way back in the day when I used to teach this in a survey of world religions back in California and Montana.
But so you don't know where in the Hindu scriptures this?
No, this came out of a textbook saying,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. No,
So, and I can check the source.
fine. I mean, it's right.
Okay.
Again, I just haven't ever seen all of these in like, presented like the Decalogue.
Oh,
You
sure.
know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
this is what God says. It's just that throughout the scriptures, I've always seen.
Right.
These to be avoided.
Yes, so I think that's a great point. This is not listed somewhere, say, in the, in one of the myths or in one of the Vedas or the Upanishads.
Oh, okay.
This is the author of the world religion textbook saying, generally in Hinduism, there is a sense that you should be avoiding these temptations.
Thank you.
But it is not like,
Ten Commandments.
it's not like the Ten Commandments where like that is exactly true. I appreciate you letting me explain that. That's good. So we have yet to talk about anything about the pantheon of gods. So let's start there. Ultimately, there is Brahman, which is the ultimate energy and source of all reality, which is both the universe and is the source of the universe, right? Then there are many manifestations. You're talking about your friends saying there's all these gods. There are hundreds, if not thousands of Hindu gods, right? But I want you to remember 3++. I want you to remember 3+, all right? And in many ways, if you're familiar with the Trinity, this word is very similar. Doesn't mean the exact same thing, but it's a way of thinking about it. Many comparative religion classes and many comparative religion textbooks will actually say, this is the Trinity of Hinduism, which isn't right, but I understand that they're trying to connect with a Western Christian mind. It's actually called the Trimurti or Trimurti. And in the Trimurti, you have 3 main manifestations of Brahman. And that is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Right? If you cannot remember any of the other thousands, remember these 3. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then we're going to break down each one. So in the Christian tradition, there's Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or creator, sustainer, nurturer, right? These are the words that we use for the Christian Trinity. The first is Brahma. Drop the in. Brahma. And Brahma is the creator. created all that we see. With the energy of Brahman, created all of reality. You can always recognize Brahman in Hindu art by the Brahman having 4 heads. The 4 heads of Brahma represent the 4 cardinal directions, represents the 4 Vedas, represents the 4 cycles of the yugas, all of those things. Brahma is always holding a book, which represents the Vedas, is holding a set of rosary beads, prayer beads, a ladle, which is it represents the creative energy, and water pot, which is the creative energy of the universe. And often in Hindu art, you can recognize Brahma because Brahma is riding a beautiful swan named Hamsa, because why not? Right? I literally, a friend of mine's, I was like, why does Brahma like ride a swan? He was like, because Brahma likes fancy things. Like that was his answer to me. Like, and so I'm not saying that's the official answer, but that was his answer to me. He's like, why shouldn't Brahma, the creator of the universe, want to ride a swan? Yeah,
I
Fred.
have a better answer.
Please.
Because at least mythologically, if you put milk and water in a cup, the swan will take the milk and leave the water,
Oh,
meaning that it shows that we are to take the wisdom and leave the ignorance, take the good, leave the bad. That's mythological.
that's the same thing that my friend said. I think that's the exact same thing. Why not? No, that's great. Thank you. So all the 3 gods of the Trimurti have consorts. And for Brahma, the feminine, in many ways, you have the divine masculine and you have the divine feminine. And in many ways, the consorts represent the divine feminine of the god that they are connected with. And so for Brahma, the consort of Brahma is Saraswati. Thank you, Saraswati. And she is, I mean, I think this makes total sense that the god who is the creator would have a consort who is the goddess of knowledge and music and learning, right? Only makes sense to me.
She had 4 arms, is that from?
She has 4 arms. That is correct. That is correct. So the next god in the Trimurti is Vishnu, who is the preserver, who is really busy right now, trying to protect and preserve everything. As Brahma is done creating, then Vishnu is charged with preserving and protecting all of reality. In many ways, Brahma kind of drops out. And Vishnu and the next god, Shiva, are much more popular, right? They're a much more popular god, which totally makes sense, because once creation is done, Vishnu is much more busy. Vishnu often rides an eagle named Garuda, and has many avatars. And basically, the way I want you to think of avatars is the whole point of the universe is to be in balance. And when the balance of the universe gets, when the universe gets imbalanced, then the gods will take on avatars, sometimes descending from a spiritual realm, sometimes being born in human form, and will work to put the universe or reality back into balance, right? And so some of the more famous and well-known avatars for Vishnu is Krishna and Ram, right? And so you can recognize Vishnu. He is often blue, 4 arms, and he is carrying a discus, which is what he uses to deflect when people are when people are trying to tempt him out of not living into his dharma, which is to be the protector and the preserver of the universe. And a conch shell, which I didn't write down. What's the conch shell? Can you?
The conch shell is blowing the conch shell, like blowing a shofar.
Oh,
But the tone is Om.
oh, the conch shell is oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Vishnu's consorts are Lakshmi and Bhu Devim. And Lakshmi is the goddess of good fortune. So as you are seeking Artha and prosperity, many people will be praying to Lakshmi. And Bhu Devi is the earth goddess, and sort of the goddess of life in that way. Now, if I have my own favorites, and you're allowed to have your own favorites, I'm a big fan of Shiva. Shiva is the destroyer, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because when you come to the end of the fourth yuga, Kali, then Shiva will do a dance. And I forgot, I have actually a Shiva statuette in my office, and I meant to bring it in here. Shiva is often also brown, though not often four-armed. As all of the gods, as you notice, have an animal companion, Shiva's animal companion is Nandi the bull. That is, have you ever heard the thing that Hindus don't eat beef?
Yeah.
This is not why Hindus don't eat beef. The cow is a symbol of the gentle nature of a cow, and the mothering nature of a cow is part of the non-violent aspect of Hinduism. The idea that a cow is a provider and is gentle, which is one reason why many Hindus, not all, but many Hindus are vegetarians. So the thing you want to make sure when you meet Shiva is that his third eye is closed. Because if his third eye is open, you will melt like that guy in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like when he sees the ark and it opens, you always want to meet Shiva with his eye closed. He carries a trident to destroy ignorance and illusion. And when the fourth yugi is has come to an end, then Shiva will do the dance, and then Brahma will come back and do Brahma things and creating the next universe.
So she was saying with bull, right?
Yeah.
Bulls aren't so gentle. Cows are gentle, but bulls aren't necessarily.
Sure. Having spent some time on some ranches, that's very true. I've been kicked a few times.
Yes.
So Shiva has a consort in Parvati, and Parvati has the 9 avatars herself. My personal favorites are Durga and Kali. Durga is a warrior, princess, warrior, queen, and she rides a lion and has a sword. And if she should be a character on like the video game Mortal Kombat, like she is phenomenal. She is a warrior goddess all the way through, and she's amazing. Kali is the god of death. And again, that might sound sad or violent to us, but death is not seen as the end of things, right? In Hinduism. And so Kali participates in the sacred spirituality of death. And then Shiva and Parvati is the mother of Ganesha, which if there's a god that non-Hindus in the Western world may be familiar with, it is Ganesha. Ganesha is fondly thought of in Hinduism because he's the remover of obstacles. Who wouldn't want to pray to that God? We all have obstacles that we need help removing. And so I'm going to let you look up the myth as to why Ganesha has an elephant head, because there's a couple more things I want to get to before our hour is over. But before I do, any questions about and there are more, so many more, But if you're going to remember three tonight, these are the three that I want you to remember. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. And they work in concert with each other. And they are not rivals. They are not at war with each other. They are not, this is not, God and Satan. This is, these are members of the same source, coming from the same source in Brahman, and are part of the Brahman's reality in which we all sort of participate in.
Why the multiple arms?
Oh, gosh, I'd have to look that up, Tim.
Multiple arms.
What's that?
Why the multiple arms? I'll tell you after class. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question, but that's a little deeper into my knowledge of Hinduism, Tim.
Love
Yeah,
arms too.
that's one of those questions. If we were doing this over a semester, I would say I'd come back and I'll have that answer for you next week. So not that I want to break down what these are. I just want to present to you the truth that we in the West often think of Hinduism as this monolithic thing. And Hinduism isn't a monolithic thing. It is diverse, and much like Christianity, there isn't one Hinduism. Just like there's no such thing as one Christianity. There are Christianities, and there are Hinduisms. And so these are four of the more major denominations. These are not the only four denominations, but these are the four maybe most popular or biggest in terms of demographic population around the world, from the Caribbean to Indonesia to the United States to the Southeast Asia, the Indus Valley, right? And you can look these up and you can see how they differ from one another. Mostly what I want you to walk away from tonight is, in our time spending time with Hinduism, is there is no such thing as like one Hinduism. But what I've been trying to convey to you is, if you have a friend who is Hindu and you can have some commonality in conversation with them that most Hindus would adhere to most of the things that we've covered over the last 2 hours. Last but certainly not least, I want to talk about at least one holiday. And this is probably the most popular of the holidays in Hinduism, which is Diwali or Diwali. I've heard it pronounced both ways. It is the festival of lights. It usually is held in October or November. I know in my neighborhood of Princeton Estates in Kentwood, that there is a street in our neighborhood where there are about 6 Indian or Pakistani, Sri Lankan families. And when Diwali hit this last year in late October, oh my gosh, those 6 houses in a row, they were lit up like Christmas. It was color, there were lights, there were flags, there were lamps that were lit. It was so crazy. It was like in a great way. It was so fun. Everyone else was decorated for Halloween, and like these 6 houses were decorated for Diwali. It was so good.
It's not just a day.
It's not a day. It's 5 days. It's 5 days. And one of the interpretations of Diwali is that it is the celebration of Rama's victory over the demon god Ravana. That's one, not the only, but that's one. That's why I wanted to present to you that myth, epic myth, was it is for some Hindus, it is the grounding myth for this holiday. Ultimately, the celebration is one of family, one of joy, one of giving. One of the traditions for Diwali is to participate in Shurva, which is almsgiving to the poor, to the less fortunate. There is the tradition of bhakti, which is the devotion, the spiritual devotion to the gods. And if you see here, that is, if I get this right, it's Rangol Rangoli art. This is done on the floor. It is temporary, done with sand and beans and everything. It's much like a mandala, right? And it's you create it with your family, with your friends. It takes place in the entryway of your house as a way to greet people and to bring joy and color into your home. Notice all the candles. One of the great things, the Chinese invented fireworks, hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago. Our Indian friends have taken Diwali to the next level with the laser lights and fireworks, and it is a bonkers fun celebration. It rivals Lunar New Year in the Asian world. It rivals Christmas in the Western world. Over 1 billion people around the world celebrate this holiday. How many of you have heard of this holiday before? So a handful of you. I'm telling you, this holiday is Lunar New Year, Christmas, Diwali, right? These are the 3 biggest holidays in the world. And people from around the world celebrate it. Does it sound like you exchange presents with your family and friends? Tell me this doesn't sound familiar to you. You eat, you gorge yourself on food. It's a beautiful, beautiful holiday. When I was the chaplain at Heidelberg College in Ohio, we had some international students that were from India with us. And when the time for Diwali came around, they came to my office and they were like, can we do Sangali art in the mess hall, in the cafeteria? And as all the students walked into the cafeteria for that week, they had to step around this as a way to greet them. And we put up all these posters teaching our students about Diwali and stuff like that. It was so great. And then they made traditional Diwali Indian food. It was scrumptious. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot. One of the things that you do for Diwali in terms of food are eat sweets. Like there's special Diwali cookies and pies that you make. It's so good. I'm telling you, make some Indian friends. Get invited over to their house for Diwali. You won't regret it. And then this is, so I asked it earlier, how many of you have ever had a chance to go to Southeast Asia and visit a Hindu temple? I was honored in 2019 to be able to visit Sian Reap and Angkor Wat, which is now a Buddhist monastery, but in the 10th century, it was built as a Hindu temple. And got a chance to visit Angkor Wat. The sunrise at Angkor Wat is it should be on your bucket list. It is one of the most moving spiritual experiences I've ever had in my life. The only thing that ruined it were about the 3,000 other people that were there. I really wanted just me to be there to experience it. So, but it's a beautiful place. And so you walk through these hallways here, and like all along the wall are these epic myths, much like stained glass windows. Stained glass windows tell the story of the biblical stories. These art pieces and frescoes and statues tell the story of the wonderful Hindu myths and epics. Beautiful place. You get a chance to go. I cannot speak highly enough of Cambodia. They are one of the great marvels of the world. They are rebounding after just a horrible, horrible recent history. And they are beautiful people. And so if you get a chance, I can't recommend it enough. But that's next week. No class. We'll have no class. You have no class next week. Instead of class, we'll have Ash Wednesday. We'll be in Merriam Hall. And then we'll get back together on February 25th for the beginning intro class for Judaism. But Fred, I want to thank you for being here. You've added so much to our experience of learning about Hinduism. Thank you.
I'm pardon, I heard things.
Thank you. But thank you everybody online for being with us. hope you learned something and until we meet again, may God bless you and keep you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.